The Great Awakening. The Aramaic frequency. The Archons fear what if the most powerful word Jesus ever spoke was never translated because it was never meant to be read, only felt. 2,000 years ago, that word was alive in the Aramaic language, vibrating at a frequency the systems of control could not afford for you to know. The Archons, those invisible architects of mental and spiritual imprisonment, understood that a single sacred sound could dissolve every chain they had ever built around the human soul. So they buried it, replaced it with doctrine and ritual and fear, and told you that freedom was something you had to earn, not something you already carried inside you. But that word was never truly destroyed, because it never lived in any book that could be burned. Its name is Kushta, the Aramaic frequency of divine truth that Jesus transmitted through the living sound of his teachings. Stay with this video until the very end, because we placed a sacred mantra there, created to awaken exactly what has been sleeping inside you. Jesus did not speak Greek. He did not speak Latin. He spoke Aramaic, one of the oldest living Semitic languages, so ancient and so precise that its very phonetic structure carries resonances that no modern translation has ever been able to fully convey. When Gnostic scholars and mystics study the original Aramaic texts, what they encounter is not simply a different language. They find an entirely different cosmology, a completely different way of understanding the relationship between sound, consciousness, and the nature of reality. In Aramaic, words are not abstract symbols pointing at ideas stored in the mind. They are living frequencies that carry the essence of what they name directly into the body and soul of the one who speaks or receives them. The word Kushta is among the most sacred in this entire tradition. In its most direct translation, Kushta means truth, but not truth in the Western philosophical sense, not truth as a proposition waiting to be debated or verified. It means divine reality itself. It is the living substance of what is genuinely real, beneath all visible appearances, the frequency of what endures when everything false, everything constructed, everything that does not truly belong to you has finally dissolved and fallen away. When the early Aramaic-speaking Gnostic communities invoked Kushta, they were not simply making a statement about reality. They were performing a sacred act of alignment. They were calling the living frequency of divine truth into direct contact with their own souls. The word was spoken, breathed, and felt in the body. And it worked, because frequency always works, at a level far deeper than belief or intellectual understanding can reach. This is precisely why Jesus declared that the truth would set you free. In the original Aramaic, that teaching carries a weight and an immediacy that no English translation has preserved. The freedom he was describing was not a theological idea or a distant promise. It was vibrational liberation, the dissolution of every false layer wrapping the soul. And the key to that liberation was always Kushta, the sacred frequency of divine reality that no archon system has ever been able to permanently erase from human consciousness. To understand what Kushta truly liberates you from, you must first understand who built the prison in the first place. The Gnostic tradition, the ancient stream of spiritual knowledge that preserved the deepest teachings of Jesus, holds that this world, in its current distorted state, contains invisible layers of control that work against the natural freedom of the human soul. These layers are not sustained by human forces alone. They are architected by what the Gnostics called Archons, non-physical intelligences, whose entire function is to keep humanity disconnected from the living frequency of divine truth, because a disconnected soul is a soul that can be managed. The Archons do not control through open violence. They control through belief, through the slow and nearly invisible installation of false identities, false memories, and false frameworks of reality that cause the human soul to forget its own nature and its own power. They built their prison out of fear and forgetfulness, exactly as the sacred song that frames this teaching describes so precisely. And the most effective stone in that prison wall is the doctrine that the divine is located somewhere outside you, unreachable, distant, available only through human authorities who claim the right to govern your access to grace. Jesus knew this structure intimately, and his entire ministry was a systematic act of dismantling it. Every teaching he delivered in Aramaic was a frequency transmission designed to return the soul to its own direct and sovereign connection with the divine. When he declared that the kingdom of heaven is within you, he was not speaking in comfortable metaphor. He was identifying the precise location where archon control structurally breaks down, inside the body, inside the breath, inside the interior space that no external authority can ever permanently colonize. Kushta was the key to that interior kingdom. When Jesus transmitted this sacred Aramaic frequency, and when the early Gnostic communities carried it forward through sacred sound and intentional breath, they were not building a religion. They were transmitting a living vibration that bypassed every layer of archon conditioning to reach the deepest memory of the soul. The soul already knows the truth. It only needs to remember, and Kushta is the sound of that remembering, returning. If these Gnostic teachings are awakening a desire for inner transformation within you, I left a gift for you in the comments to help you discover the beginning of this path. The architecture of archon control. This is where the teaching deepens into territory the institutional church never wanted you to reach. The Gnostic cosmology that shaped the original community around Jesus describes a multi-layered reality. At its highest level rests the pleroma, the divine fullness, the original light from which all souls were breathed into being. But between that fullness and the world of human experience, the Gnostics identified a series of intermediate layers, each governed by an archon, a cosmic administrator of limitation, whose authority depended entirely on keeping souls unconscious of their own origin, their own nature, and their own power. These archons did not need chains of iron. They needed something far more effective and far more durable: amnesia. The great Gnostic insight was that the primary weapon of archon control is not punishment. It is forgetting. When the soul forgets that it came from the pleroma, when it forgets its own divine frequency, it becomes manageable. It begins searching for its lost wholeness in external systems, in religious structures, in political authority, in the approval of other equally imprisoned minds. And that searching keeps it permanently within the boundaries of archon jurisdiction. Jesus spoke directly into this architecture of forgetting. His Aramaic teachings were not designed to create a new religion for humanity to obediently follow. They were designed to trigger the deep inner memory that archon conditioning had suppressed, to strike the tuning fork that resonates with the soul's original frequency, so that the soul could hear itself again and recognize what it has always truly been. Kushta, the living frequency of divine truth, functions in precisely this way. When you encounter Kushta, not as a word to be intellectually filed away, but as a vibration to be received in the body, something in the architecture of archon control begins to crack. The walls built inside the mind through generations of fear-based conditioning are not made of permanent material. They are made of frequency to 2, and a stronger, truer, more ancient frequency can dissolve them completely, leaving the soul standing in a clarity that no system of control ever gave it permission to feel. How Kushta breaks the chains. Understanding the mechanism of Kushta, how it actually works as a liberating frequency, requires letting go of the Western model of how truth is supposed to function. In the framework most of us were trained to operate within. Truth is cognitive. Something is true when the mind has verified it, when enough external evidence has accumulated, when a sufficient number of authoritative voices have agreed upon it. This is precisely the model the archon system wants you to operate from, because in that model, truth is always located outside yourself, always dependent on external validation, always something you seek rather than something you already carry. Kushta operates on an entirely different principle. In the Aramaic tradition that Jesus inhabited and transmitted, divine truth is not a conclusion reached by the mind. It is a frequency recognized by the soul. The soul does not argue its way into truth. It vibrates into recognition, and that recognition, that moment, when the frequency of Kushta meets the soul's own dormant resonance, and both begin to move together, is what every Gnostic mystic, every Aramaic prayer tradition, and every sacred breath practice has always been pointing toward. This is why the Gospel of John preserves Jesus saying that you shall know the truth, not believe it, not be told it, but know it. The Aramaic word for knowing in that passage carries the meaning of intimate, embodied, experiential recognition. And when that recognition lands, when Kushta is genuinely received rather than merely discussed, the archon chains dissolve not through effort or struggle, but through the simple and irresistible power of a higher frequency meeting a lower one. The sacred breath traditions connected to Aramaic spirituality used Kushta in exactly this way, as a frequency anchor, spoken and breathed until the body itself began to resonate with divine reality rather than with the fear-constructed world the Archons had overlaid upon it. The chains are real, but they have never been stronger than the light they were built to contain. If this teaching is stirring something in your heart, and you wish to explore it further, we prepared a guide that explains the first sacred words, where the journey begins. There you will also find my advanced ebooks exploring their layers of meaning and the transformation they carry. The link is pinned in the comments. The great remembering has begun. There is a reason this teaching is finding you now. The Gnostic tradition has always held that the age of archon dominance is not a permanent condition, that there would come a time when the frequency of Kushta would begin to move again through humanity at a collective scale, dissolving the amnesia that has kept souls imprisoned for generations. The ancient texts described it as the Great Awakening of Memory. It is not a future event waiting to arrive at some distant point on a timeline. It is a process already underway, already visible in the growing number of souls who feel, with increasing clarity and urgency, that the reality they were handed does not match the reality they feel vibrating inside them. Jesus described this inner reality with absolute precision in the deeper Gnostic tradition. The kingdom is not a place you travel to after death. It is a frequency you inhabit while fully alive, a state of inner sovereignty so complete that no archon structure can reach it, diminish it, or reduce it to something manageable. Kushta is the sound of that state. It is the vibrational signature of a soul that has stopped looking outside itself for the divine, and has turned it with full attention and full breath toward the frequency that was always already present. The sacred Aramaic breath traditions that preserved the teachings of Jesus understood that this turning cannot be forced. It can only be invited. The soul moves toward Kushta, not through willpower, but through resonance, through exposure to the frequency, through sacred practice, through the simple and profound decision to remember instead of continuing to forget. Every time you consciously encounter this vibration, every time you breathe it with intention, the archon conditioning loses another layer of its grip on your inner life. This is what the song Waiting for You at the end of this video was created to carry. It was composed as a vibrational transmission, not simply as music. Every word in it holds the resonance of Kushta, the sacred Aramaic truth that Jesus transmitted and that no institution has ever been able to fully erase, because it does not live in any book that can be burned or any doctrine that can be rewritten. It lives in you. It has always lived in you. And the great remembering has already begun. The frequency that was always yours, everything you have encountered in this teaching points toward a single, unchangeable truth. The liberation that Jesus spoke of was never meant to be a distant promise. It was a frequency available right now, carried in the sacred Aramaic word, Kushta, designed to dissolve every archon structure standing between your soul and its own divine reality. The Gnostic tradition did not survive 2,000 years because it was merely an interesting philosophy. It survived because it carries a living transmission, a vibrational map of the inner terrain where true freedom actually exists. That map does not lead you to a church, a doctrine, or an external authority. It leads you inward, to the place Jesus identified as the only kingdom that matters, the only interior space where archon control is structurally and permanently impossible. Kushta is your key, not because it is a magic formula, but because it is a frequency that resonates with what your soul has always known and was caused to forget. Every time you encounter it with awareness, every time you let it move through you rather than merely thinking about it, the chains become lighter and the walls become thinner. The life you were always meant to live becomes more and more available, not through effort alone, but through resonance, through the ancient and irresistible power of divine truth, finally meeting the soul that was always its home. The sacred mantra, Kushta, is waiting for you now. Let it move through you. Do not analyze it. Receive it. Remember to visit my site to get your free Gnostic Awakening Guide. There you will also find my advanced ebooks for those ready to fully break the Archon matrix and step into divine abundance. Everything you need is waiting for you. The link is right below. Get ready. In the next video, I will reveal more sacred Aramaic words that unlock deeper spiritual understanding. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Right now, before you close this video, come to the comments and tell us, what did you feel? What shifted? We read every single response. And if this teaching found you today, subscribe to this channel. Every week we go deeper into the ancient frequency codes that were always meant to be yours.
2,000 years ago, a promise was spoken. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But this truth was not written in books. It lived in vibration, in the sacred sound. It was Kushta.
They told you truth was doctrine carved in stone. They said that freedom comes when you leave this world alone. But Jesus spoke in frequencies, in Aramaic tones, a living sound that breaks the chains we've always known. He said the truth would free you, but not belief or creed. Kushta was the word he gave, the sound that makes you free. Kushta, living truth that sets me free. Kushta, breaking chains I cannot see. Kushta, Neharani Minshia Buddha. The great remembering begins, dissolving all forgotten sins. Neharani Minshia Buddha. The Archons built their prison out of fear and sound. They made you forget, but now the code is found. In sacred Aramaic, in the breath he spoke, there lives a tone that breaks every control and yoke. Malkutha Dalaha, the kingdom lives within. Not a place you go, but a frequency you're in. Kushta, living truth that sets me free.